Hi, this is Deborah Roth here with Spirited Living in this divinely feminine dancing space. So glad you joined me today. And I invite you, before we get started with anything, to just take in this quote, which probably many of you have heard. All will be well, and all will be well, and all manner of things will be well. If you didn't know, that quote is from Julian of Norwich, who was a mystic from the 14th century, an English mystic, an anchorite she was called. Hello Tyson, hello Brianna, thanks for joining us. And she is sitting very deeply with me today. Those of you who follow me, which if you're watching this on Instagram or Facebook, you do, know that I was not here last week, and also know that the reason for that is because my 21-year-old nephew died a week ago on Monday after a very courageous fight, 9-month fight with lymphoma. So our family is in deep mourning right now, deep heartache. So I wasn't even sure I'd be able to get here all right. But then when I saw who I had picked, several weeks ago, I look through and I see if there are any interesting or powerful sounding festival days or feast days coming up. And May 13th, actually tomorrow, is Julian of Norwich's festival, her feast day. And at first I thought, well, maybe I should do the one I was going to do last week, but just couldn't. Or whether I should stick with this one. And when I started reading more about her, I've certainly heard of her. I've even heard of her in ways that I didn't remember. And that quote is one of them. I thought, that sounds so familiar. I feel like the woman's chorus that I sing in the So Harmoniums has sung that somehow. And so I went back and, looked back in my files, and we did sing it in the spring of 2015, but even more poignant was that we sang it spontaneously in November it was the eve of the 2016 election, and we were all in mourning, and we sang this song with tears streaming down our faces. And the words, I believe she wrote this, Julian of Norwich wrote this herself, was called Vivos Voco. And it's there. Some of it's in Latin, but then there's this beautiful refrain. If I remember, I'll put the YouTube link in the comments and it's a woman's piece, and it's just exquisite. And I was listening to it with tears streaming down my face this afternoon, which happens for one reason or another in the last couple weeks. And the translation means, my brain is not functioning on full. Call for the living. Call for the living. So it's hard to remember right now when you're in the middle, and I'm sure all of you have been at some point in your life for some reason or another, have been in the middle of deep mourning, to think, to somehow remember the higher perspective, the larger perspective, that all will be well, eventually, at some point. All manner of things will be well. And what was extraordinary about Julian of Norwich, many things were. The fact that we know of her today, we're not even sure that's her name, because women weren't so important back in the 14th century. And we know her by her church, which was the Church of St Julian's, I think, in the town of Norwich in England. And she was alive at a pretty horrendous time with the plague, which was raging throughout the world, apparently killed half of the village, including we believe, her husband and her 2 children. There was all kinds of turmoil that was going on in the world. Spiritually, there was the Great Schism where there were 2 papal heads of church, and there was just so much going on. And from what I read, it was not from the plague, but she had a serious illness herself, to the extent where she was given last rites. And during that time, she had a series of very powerful visions. And one of the things that, and why this so spoke to me today, and especially any of you who are yogis, she created something that she called body prayer. And it's a way, there are motions, and I will show them to you, and we'll actually do them for a moment. It's a way of accessing the divine within through your body, which was so blatantly against the pretty patriarchal Christian church at that time, who really embraced the doctrine of transcendence, that we had to rise above these human bodies, these dirty, unwhole human bodies of ours, in order to transcend and connect with God that way, instead of the more feminine version of spirit, which talks about being able to access God from within, or to access the divine, whatever you call that, if you have that belief system at all in your life. So she came to this. She called it, let's see, looking at my little scribbled notes here, she called it, when you access that divine energy source within, she called it oneing, as in being with one, but turning it into a verb, which I just loved. So the 4 parts of her prayer, of her body prayer, are await, and I'll show you the hand movements in a moment. Await, which is when we're receiving and we're waiting to be held and supported, and to receive the presence of the divine, whatever that looks like for you. Accept, and it's a stance of, I'm just sort of naturally doing the hand movements that go with it. Accept is allowing the sense of the divine, of God, Goddess presence to come in, and you do that with your hands over your heart, as you saw. Allow, which is, I'm doing it out of order, sorry. So it's await, so we're awaiting, and then with your hands wide open, it's allow. You're allowing for whatever gifts are going to come in, accepting those gifts with your hands over your heart, and then attend, which means that we are offering those gifts to serve the world in whatever way they can. So it goes await, and I'm raising my hands up. They should be down by my waist, but I'm raising them up so you can see them. Some of you can't see them very well. So await, allow, with your hands full out, to allow that inspiration to come in, accept, hands over your heart, and attend, to bring that wisdom, to bring those gifts to the world. So why don't you take a moment to do it with me, and then we'll do it a few times. I'll keep doing the words just because I want to anchor it in myself too. This is a new practice for me as well, and it's so resonating with me. No chants this time, because whenever I sing, if there's any time I'm going to get teary and not be able to get through something, it's when I'm teaching you a chant. So it goes, await, allow, accept, attend. Await, allow, I think you're supposed to raise your head too, allow, accept, attend, await, allow, accept, attend. Isn't that beautiful? And this was a piece that she wrote, and I wanted to read this to you as well, because I thought this was just, and again, you can substitute the word God for whatever image of the divine is powerful for you. But I love this because she's also known to be, or we think that she was the first English woman to have a book published, to write a book. And the name of her book was Revelations of Divine Love. And for her, everything came back to love, which again was revolutionary for the time that she lived in, because at that point, God was looked at as this punishing, getting you into line, and she believed that the divine operated solely from love. So this is This is from her, the 5th chapter of her Revelations of Divine Love. In one of her visions, Julian saw a tiny thing the size of a hazelnut in the palm of her hand. I looked at this with the eye of my soul and thought, what is this? And this is the answer that came to me. It is all that is made. I saw that this tiny thing had 3 properties that were essential to it. The first is that God made it. The second is that God loves it. The third is that God preserves it. I was astonished that it managed to survive. It was so small, I thought it might disintegrate. And in my mind, I heard this answer. It lives on and will live on forever because God loves it. So everything owes its existence to the love of the divine. It all comes back to love. So I leave you with that to carry it wherever you are in your life right now. If there are things that you need to remember, that all shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of thing shall be well. Namaste. Have a beautiful week, and I will see you back here at some point next week. I'm not sure exactly when. Blessings to you all.